Sometimes people will overwhelm themselves. I need to change my diet. I need to go to the gym 5 times a week. I need to work out for 2 hours every day. They'll do that for a really short period of time, and then they'll get really burnt out.
What do you do on the days when you're lacking motivation?
It's everybody's favorite word. It's discipline.
And do you have any advice for people who are struggling to get started?
My recommendation would be start with one thing. I think can be really helpful for anybody, but particularly beginners, because at least in my mind, they're a little less intimidating.
Leanbeefpatty is one of the most recognizable women in fitness. She built her insane physique by teaching herself everything, and now she shares workouts and real advice with millions.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to get ripped today.
We are.
We're going to be jacked by the end of this.
We will be.
That would be cool. Was there ever a time you struggled with fitness motivation?
I mean, probably I have more struggles like now than I did like earlier in my journey, because I think I used to have a lot more anxiety, and that was like a really great driving factor for me.
It pushed you to go more things?
I didn't have like
come
gym anxiety.
Oh, okay.
Like I was never nervous about like people judging me, whatever. I don't know where that came from. Because usually I'm very like, I don't know, self-conscious, but at the gym I was like, nah, I got this. And now, obviously, extremely grateful for the life that I have. But, you know, sometimes when you turn something into a job, it can take a little bit of the fun out. So when I had a 9 to 5, the gym was like, oh, this amazing thing I get to do. Now it's still this amazing thing I get to do, but it's like, I don't know. Maybe I just need more things in my life.
Yeah, I remember that you said before the gym was your sacred place and you actually didn't want to do social media about it. Do you feel like it's still your sacred place now that you have to record?
I think it's still sacred. Yeah. It's not the same place as it used to be, but it's still a great place.
You get to do sessions where you're not filming, or is practically every time you hit the gym, you're making content?
No, most of the time I don't film.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like filming for Instagram or TikTok. It's really easy to do that and it not affect the workout. But like for YouTube, sometimes I'll think like, okay, is this going to be like a YouTube workout or like a for real workout?
I had a very similar experience with, and I think what you're saying, a lot of people also relate to. Like for me, my passion was music and DJing, and then I started a DJ channel. And the first mix I did it for myself. I was really excited, and the mix went viral. And then there was expectations, and then I noticed the more I started doing mixes, I was creating them more for other people rather than for myself. So then I took a step back, and now I try to give myself like days where when I am making mixes, I really think of what I want. So I try to separate having like creative solo time where I get to play around with it and I don't put the pressure of videos. So that's why I was asking specifically if it's always content.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's really relatable. But yeah, for the gym, for me, I don't make it all content.
And do you have any advice for people who are struggling to get started?
In the gym?
Yeah, or with general fitness.
Or maybe people in the gym you see doing the wrong thing either.
For getting started, I'd say sometimes people will overwhelm themselves. So if they're just starting like cold turkey, they think like, oh, I need to change my diet. I need to go to the gym 5 times a week. I need to work out for 2 hours every day. And so they'll do that for a really short period of time. And then they'll get really burnt out because that's like a lot to just completely switch your lifestyle. So my recommendation would be start with one thing. So if it's going to the gym, you know, you can worry about your diet later because your diet's important for like the way you feel and the way your workouts will be and the way your body will react. But you don't have to do that right away. So I'd say start going to the gym with a manageable routine 1 day a week, 2 days a week. If that's what you can do, that's better than nothing. And then as you get more comfortable, you start increasing things.
How long did it take you to go from you're like, oh, I'm just exploring, trying, to being super disciplined? Like I'm making myself a schedule. I'm hitting these muscle groups these days of the week versus the starting point that you said.
Well, my starting point, I didn't struggle to like go a lot because I did gymnastics as a child. So when I quit that, I was really seeking like the kind of discipline. I'm doing something every day because that's what I was used to my entire life. So that's what I wanted. So that was okay. But it probably wasn't till like 5 years in that I started to actually, what I would say like a better routine. for my goals.
What I really like about your fitness content is how approachable you make it. Like, for example, when you talk about intuitive eating and like the only thing you track is your protein, which I know is really hard to hit. But yeah, I do agree with that all or nothing mindset. And I actually am prone to that too, or I was in the past. If I'm starting to work out, then I need to eat healthy. I need to do all these things. And then what happens is I miss one and then everything falls apart because I'm trying to be such a perfectionist.
Yeah. That's I would say not like an uncommon experience, I'm sure.
I'm curious, coming from gymnastics to the gym, because I had also a similar experience. Like, I did boxing for a period of time, and when that was over, I was like, I need somewhere else to let this rage out. That was really awesome. So I started the gym, and I was like, well, this is way more boring than boxing, and that was way more exciting. So how much of you going from gymnastics was it like you having to find discipline rather than just having a motivation to work out? Was it harder because it's not as exciting of a physical exercise? And like, did you feel like you had to discipline yourself specifically?
At the beginning, I really just went in and did what I wanted to do every time. So it was pretty.
So the first 5 years.
Yeah,
Are this.
it was
That's
like
awesome.
Wait, so you just go to the gym and do whatever you
That's
feel
what
like?
I
pretty
do right
much.
now.
It was pretty unstructured. Basically, every workout was like a full body workout.
Ooh,
Yeah.
and I'm curious, how much did you see change in your body transformation during those 5 years?
It fluctuated a lot just from like different things outside of the gym, like hormonal things, whatever. My diet, when I started switching things up, it changed. But up and down, it wasn't just like this or this. I'm trying to think when I first started if I really like saw any changes immediately, because I started out relatively muscular from gymnastics and I started pretty young. So sometimes I think like, what would I have developed into if I hadn't have started so young? Because like my body was going through puberty and things like that. So
Wait, how young did you start gymnastics?
like 2.
2?
Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Did
I
you-
did gymnastics as well, and I was always jealous of the people who started earlier on. I was never going to have a chance.
Yeah, no, that was a thing. I mean, I didn't have a chance and I started it too. So it's pretty tough.
It's so competitive and
extremely-
tough on the body. And also, like, I know height really matters for gymnastics too. It's an advantage to be shorter.
Yeah. I think Simone Biles is 4'8". So
Wow.
she's pretty short.
You're down there. Just
No,
kidding.
I'm kidding. No, I'm
Andrea. No, just because when Bradley met you, he was like, she's really big on camera, but in real life, she's a small girl. And I think you said, what's your height? 5'2"?
I say 5'3".
5'3". Okay. No, I was trolling. But what is your goal to take gymnastics very seriously and compete at like a professional level?
I didn't really have like anything in mind when I was very young, but when I started to think about if I should continue or not, it really came down to like, okay, how much am I enjoying this? Because there's really no point for me to keep doing it if I don't enjoy it, unless I'm going to do it in college. And I already knew I'm not going to the Olympics because I wasn't that good. And gymnastics, like, it's so competitive, but there's also like, other than Simone Biles and like a couple other people that are just like crazy, 16 is about the peak. So I was like, that's not me.
Did you quit when you were 16?
I quit a little younger. Yeah.
How old were you?
When I quit,
Yeah.
I think I was like 13.
Wow. And you had that cognitive dissonance to realize that it's not worth it if you don't enjoy it?
Yeah. Also, I started to get like mental blocks where I started to like get afraid of movements that I'd done for a really long time. So that was really difficult. I feel like being 13 is just innately difficult. So I started to get really stubborn, and like my coaches would try to get me to do things, and me being that age, I was like, well, because you said to do it, I'm not going to do it. So it was just like a lot.
What triggered the fear of movements?
I'm really not sure. Maybe it was like physical changes in my body that I was experiencing. Like, I think also 13 was when I became conscious of like my body, and I can remember the day exactly that it happened. I was 13. It was in the summer. I was about to do a tumbling pass, and I stood with my legs together, and my thighs touched, and I was like, I'm aware. And it was like pretty crazy.
Yeah, I struggled with a lot of body dysmorphia, basically. Not body dysmorphia, but self-image issues from when I was young. I was definitely on the bigger size. And I remember people from the community, adults, being like, "You're getting really big now. Your thighs are as big as an elephant
That's
thigh."
so insane.
And when she says she was on the bigger, like she was a very normal weight.
I don't know.
People,
no, I
Romanians
look
are a little
back-
bit extreme.
No, I look back and I feel like I was
You've
very,
lost
very
a ton of
overweight.
weight, which is awesome, but you weren't big.
I
You
wasn't
weren't big.
small
You
either,
were
bro.
like, for a teenage girl, I think it was pretty normal body size, and I think adults were just like, I don't know, to me saying insane things.
No,
but
but I remember because I also never had a thigh gap and things like that, and there was just so much hatred and loathing towards my body, and it was very difficult. Did you? I know you said that you experienced body dysmorphia as well. What was that like for you when you started to become conscious of it?
Unfortunately, I developed an eating disorder almost immediately. Like as soon as I became aware, I was like, I am stopping this. So that was no good for quite a few years. Struggled with that. I didn't have a lot of adults in my life commenting on my body, but there was a couple in my family, maybe not as intense as that, but like when I was really deep in my eating disorder, when it first started to happen, I had a family member be like, "Wow, you're getting so big." And I was like, dude, I'm like, this is not the time to say that. So I like things like that, which I don't know, maybe adults should just, as I'm an adult now, I would like never comment on someone's body like that
same.
ever.
Mostly because I'm so traumatized all the stuff I heard. But I'm curious, do you think there's anything you could have said to your 13-year-old self that would have snapped you out of this body dysmorphia?
Well, knowing me at 13, no, because I was very like set in my own ways and didn't matter what anyone told me. But if I could have convinced myself, it would be just like chill out, dude. Just like chill out, because you're 13. This is not the time to be trying to shrink or really like go one way or the other, like intensely. Just like let your body do whatever. Because you were saying you were a little bigger, but I feel like at 13, there's like a ton of hormones and like different things happening. So it's not uncommon for someone to, I think, like gain some weight during puberty. And then as they get a little older, they just naturally, grow out of it. But
Yeah, I went from a size 0 to like a size 12 in maybe 3 years.
yeah.
So
puberty. How were you able to get out of the eating disorder habits?
I went to therapy for a super long time. But I fought recovery for a really long time. So I'm a pretty firm believer in like you can't really help someone that doesn't want to be helped.
I agree.
But even in that time that I didn't want help, I still learned a lot of valuable information. So by the time I did want to receive the help, I was like, oh, I already know like what to do.
And I know our target demographic isn't really 13-year-old girls, but I look at what teenage girls are going through nowadays and obviously seeing all these perfect people online. And even though there's so much public discourse about how these things are fake, I don't think there's ever been more pressure on young girls to look really attractive.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any way to shake people out of that? Or not even attractive because they are attractive, but comparing themselves to other people?
I think it's hard, especially for like that age. I can't even imagine. I did not use the internet at that age. I didn't really have any interest to, so that's why I didn't. But I'm an adult now, and like when I am online, I see a bunch of beautiful people, and I think about how people will say like, we were never meant to see this many beautiful people. It'd be like you have like one baddie in your village, and like that's it, But now there's like a million baddies, and I'm just like, oh, the village, whatever. I think a lot of it you can get out of that just through like getting a little older and more mature. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice to the younger people like that, because I can't even imagine.
But you know what? It is inspiring that you were struggling with that and you sort of made it through. Are you happy with your body now?
Yeah, I think I'm fine with it.
You should be so
Incredible. What do you mean you're fine
You're
with it?
an icon. It's like
You're literally
look
an
at you for
icon for millions of
motivation.
people.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm not like ignorant to the fact that like I'm fit, so that's great. But
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. I think I'm a person that's always like, for example, I just cut for like 2 months. And after doing that, I started to realize I was like, oh my God, I lost so much like facial fat and I don't like that. So I was like, now I'm freaking out about that. And then I'm like, oh, now I need to gain the weight back. It's just like, always like this. Mm-hmm.
I actually have one for you, Andrea, because you also have body dysmorphia.
We all do, sister.
But again, it's so crazy because I see people who look perfect and unique and beautiful. And it's so crazy to me every time I see you suffer with it. And I remember finding one of my journals from when I was in high school. I was 16 and I was like hating my body and all these things. And I wrote, but I need to learn to love my body. Otherwise, what example do I set for my sister?
That's really sweet.
And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't a great example. But
That's like such a
sweet.
precious thought, though. That's
It
actually
is.
crazy. That's super precious.
But I didn't succeed at it.
Yeah, but you thought about it.
Yeah.
So that's like
That's
lot.
that's a start. But do you feel like it's gotten any better for you, Andrea?
I think the thing that I've learned over time is I try to have no negative self-talk, but at the same time, when I hear like how Patty reacts to her, like I feel the exact same way. It's like, are you happy now? I'm like, there's still a lot of things I relate, and sometimes it's really hard. Like I was sick for the last couple weeks, and there's weeks I feel better, like you said. Sometimes it fluctuates with hormones where you're on your cycle. Sometimes if I'm really on top of my routine, get a little bit of definition in the abs, I feel good. But if I lose that, for example, last week I had to do 3 photo shoots. I felt like I had gained a ton of weight because I wasn't able to work out for 2 weeks. Even putting on outfits and the mirror and like trying to decide what to wear for the photo shoots like made me so depressed inside. And I know, and in my head, I'm rationalizing and I'm like, well, you've been sick and you're probably a little bloated because you're in a period. And I'm like, you should be realistic. And I'm obviously gotten more realistic about standards. Like when I was younger, you mentioned you weren't super on the internet, super young. I remember when I saw like my first Tumblr post and had the girls I looked up to, and I started wearing I had no boobs. I started wearing push-up bras because I want to have making fake cleavage, and because I was like, oh, I want to look like those girls. And then I grew up and I remember I even went to a consultation. I was like, why do my hips do this? I showed a photo. I was like, I want to look like this. And they're like, that's just not possible. Your bone structure is not that. And I constantly kind of grapple where this is just completely unrealistic. You're just either born that way, some things, or not. And then also okay, certain parts of myself I'll accept that are not as even or symmetrical as I wish they were. And I've been definitely taking a bigger focus on my health. So that goes hand in hand. But I honestly feel kind of just grow up and just accept it. And I don't think I don't know, it's not very motivational, but that's just where I'm at.
Okay, one thing that helped me because I finally started feeling better about my body is okay, yes, 1, I did start taking care of myself more, but 2, I really seeked out people on social media who have more of my body type because, I actually do think representation matters for that reason because I remember being young and all the people I would save on Tumblr were these super skinny models. And now I'm seeing bigger girls who are stronger being celebrated. And actually for me, it was really helpful to see that, people can see more body sizes as beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think part of it is as you get older, you find clothes that fit you in ways that make you feel good. So it's right, adjusting for your body type is definitely something that I think clothes just when they're not really meant for your body type can easily make you feel bad because they don't fit how they're supposed to, but it's oh, well, that's just not really, it's not optimized for your body type. So I think that's one thing with representation with fashion. I don't know if you have any other takes, Patricia, on this
The representation or
just other little things.
I had
that
2
help.
comments I wanted to make on something that you said a little earlier.
Uh-huh.
The one thing about how you were oh, in these 2 weeks I changed
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
This is something I think a lot of people would struggle with, but realistically, and this is something I've realized just especially being in wellness, fitness for a while is one way or the other, even positive or negative, your body will not actually change that fast. So the
Yeah.
effects that you're seeing are most likely water weight, is your sodium up, things like that. But are you really even if you weighed yourself and you gained 10 pounds, for example, if you gain 10 pounds in 2 days, that's not 10 pounds of fat. That's water,
Yeah.
things like that. And then the other thing I wanted to say earlier about just comparison thing, something I like to think about, which isn't something that I thought about when I was 13, but I think about it now, especially comparing with other women or whoever. I like the example with like flowers where it's like two flowers are both beautiful and this flower's beauty does not detract from the other flower's beauty. You know, it's like they can be different and both beautiful. Yeah.
I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I wonder, do you have any specific fitness advice for women? Obviously, a lot of fitness and health research was historically done mostly on men, and we're learning a lot of new things that we wouldn't have known before.
I would say lifting heavy is important. It will not make you look like a man if that's something you're afraid of. Even if someone looks at me and they're like, I think she looks like a man. She looks like too much. I'd be like, you know what? It really took me a while to get here. So there's a lot of steps you can take in the meantime that if you're like seeing like, oh, I don't like how developed this muscle is, like you can just chill out on it. Like took a long time to get here. So you don't have to worry about it happening like that. Also for like lifting heavy, especially for women, very important in the long term, osteoporosis, you know, bone density, things like that, where, you know, it's cool to lift heavy, but also thinking about it as like a lifestyle. I think one of my fears is getting older and my body failing before my mind does. And I know that's like a debate, like, would you rather your mind go or your body go first? I would rather my mind go as long as I'm kind of happy, because I think if I was like super aware, but my body failed me, that would be more difficult for me. So I'm trying to take steps to remain strong as long as I can.
I just have one technical question on what you said. So if you're doing lighter weights, does that not also help with things like osteoporosis, or is there a reason why you have to lift particularly heavy?
Lighter weights can still help, but I'm pretty sure it's more of like the actual force of the heavy weights as your bones thicken. That's not the right terminology. Hopefully I don't sound like a freaking idiot, but I know it's helps support your bone structure.
I know that lifting weights, especially heavy, is really important for women, especially women as you start getting over 30, you lose bone density faster. I just never understood if there was other things you could do, but it makes sense.
You can do other things, like even like Pilates. It's mostly just like resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
Pilates is also resistance training, or like lighter weights is also resistance training, but it's more difficult to progress in those things.
What I read specifically about this, because in my very long, complicated fitness journey, after doing weightlifting for some time, I was like, I don't want to get bigger. I just want to be lean. So I only did Pilates 3-4 times a week. And it's good Pilates where you're using light weights, you're doing reps, like you sweat really hard, you feel a decent burn. And then my roommate, Anya, there's this really good episode by Dario's CEO. There's 4 like top female doctors in every field. And I actually need to finish listening to it, but I got to this part, zoned out. My roommate summed it up. But essentially why weightlifting over Pilates is so important is because specifically when you are maxing and getting to the point where you increase weight, apparently the things that actually really help, what Patricia's saying, like bone health and long-term things, is either like the hormones that secrete, I don't know, I'm going to use that word, you secrete at that moment. So there's something specifically, which is true. And I was kind of comparing it after Pilates going back into weightlifting. And I was like, it's true. Your heart like works harder when you're pushing for max. So maybe there's ways where you can still be pushing to that moment of like, this is your hardest effort in Pilates, but it's definitely not as common. I need to do more research, but that kind of stuck with me. And that simple fact alone motivated me to go back to the gym for a week.
No, that's really cool. I think one of the things that's intimidating for me with weightlifting, I had to do it with a trainer, is what if my form is wrong? Where to start? Do you have any advice on that?
Utilizing YouTube. Like sometimes I'll be doing an exercise or like implementing a new exercise into my workout routine and I don't even know what it is. So I'll look at a couple videos, you know, they're like 10 seconds long with an explanation. That's very helpful. You can look in the mirror to check your form. Recording yourself, even though people will feel uncomfortable recording themselves, or maybe it's not allowed in their gym, but that can be super helpful, even if it's just for you and you don't show anybody else, to like form check. Because sometimes I'll be like doing a squat or something, and if I didn't have it on video, I wouldn't know that I was doing something incorrectly, so that I can adjust.
So you can tell when you're doing something incorrectly.
Yes, but also referencing back to the other videos, or like just doing something repeatedly and seeing it so many times, I can tell I'm doing something incorrectly when I watch my videos back because I've seen somebody else do it correctly. So
I started taking photos of my form. Sometimes it's really hard, and this is why I appreciated your video on getting over gym anxiety and being shy at the gym. But when there's no one there, I'll record myself and I'll send it to Chatgpt, and I'll just sit there because I'll be like, I haven't done this exercise in like a year. I know I'm doing this, and I'll send specific photos, but it'll take me like 10 minutes. I'm just sitting in front of the weight, talking to Chat about how to do it, because I used to have a personal trainer where I would send back videos, she would send back videos. But now I feel like you can just send it to Chat, and Chat can help you figure out your form if you're not shy to do it at the gym.
And I know you have to be really careful with Chat, but I know there's also a lot of people who can't afford a personal trainer. So having that over nothing
It's
feels
better
valuable.
than nothing. And even if you're too shy to take photos of yourself, you can say, I'll literally submit a photo of the equipment I'm doing, and I'm saying, I want to work this muscle. What's some things I can do? And then Chat will do it, give it to me. And I really like this because I started being able to like organize specific exercises for muscles on machines I already like. But you do have to be okay with just like sitting on the gym and just doing a little bit of research, and it can take a little bit of time.
I think also just doing the movement repeatedly, like the first time you do anything you haven't done before, it's usually going to feel crazy. It's usually going to be like, wow, that did not feel right. But as you do it more, you'll get better at it. Like you'll start understanding the mechanics of your body better. And yeah.
And are there any beginner-friendly weightlifting exercise you'd recommend for people in, let's say, their first week?
Machines are usually pretty good, I'd say, for beginners because unlike free weights, they're very structured and like literally physically guided because you're restricted by the motion of the machine. So you can't really go like super willy-nilly. Like you could if you were trying hard, but like most of the time it's pretty straightforward. Most machines have either like a QR code where you can scan it and it will show you how to use the machine, or it has like a little cartoon that shows you how to use the machine. So I think machines can be really helpful for anybody, but particularly beginners, because at least in my mind, they're a little less intimidating than just going like free weights.
And would you recommend before someone starts for their first week, like just going in and trying stuff at the gym, or trying to come up with a plan before?
I think it depends. I mean, like when you go in, if you're really nervous about like, I'm going to get lost or something, most of the time there's someone working at the front, and most of the time they're more than happy to give you a tour. In fact, sometimes they force you. I've gone to some gyms sometimes and they're like, well, let me give you a tour. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. And they're like, no, I have to. So I'm like, oh, okay. But you can get a tour. If you're really nervous, I would recommend writing down. I like to use my Sheets app, kind of like Excel. Like write down the exercises I want to do and the rep ranges I want to do. And then after I do them, I also put the weight that I used and the amount of reps I did actually get. Just so I know the next workout, like, okay, this is what I did, this is what I can do again and beat it. But sometimes like having that written down is like, calming because you're like, okay, I know what I'm going to do.
And this is more for my own curiosity, and I'm assuming it changes. And you're, again, a very experienced weightlifter, but could you share your current weekly routine, like this week, what your split is?
This week, I think I've been working out like, I want to say like 4 days a week. It's usually like a back, like a full upper body sort of thing, a quad focus leg day, glute and quad, and a hamstring and quad, and then one that's just kind of like accessories. So like for
What
like
are accessories?
accessories are like abs, or like if I missed something earlier in the week, or if there's something that I was like, okay, I felt like this was kind of lacking in my workout, so I'm gonna make up for it, or like extra mobility, things like that. For me personally, right now my routine is like a little bit more chill than like when I was doing powerlifting. I felt like that was like a lot going on because I was trying to cut. So I was like, okay, I can't be like super crazy because I just don't have the physical energy to do that.
And we're talking a lot about, getting in better shape and the physical stuff. How has your mental improved with fitness?
Well, from the beginning, I found it very helpful, like for my anxiety. So fitness has always been good for that for me. There was also a period of time where I was super angry, and I didn't box, but I did like MMA for a little bit. So like maybe a similar experience of like, I'm taking out my rage, but also kind of always doing that with the gym. Anger is probably like my favorite driving force in the gym, but I'm not like that angry of a person anymore. So now I just have to like manifest a motivation.
Can you share what was driving some of that anger, or if you want to keep it personal, that's okay.
Yeah, I think I was just like young and like upset of like, oh, I feel like the world has like wronged me. But it's like, dude, you're like 17, like chill
okay,
out.
so this was not very recent rage.
Yeah, no.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was like younger, you know, it's just like, why did this person do that? Brr. Stuff
Would
like
you
that.
ever train for like an influencer boxing if it was still hot, let's say?
Yeah. I don't know. Someone asked if I wanted to do that. And I was like, well, I love to watch, but I don't know if I want to do that. Just because I love to spar
Oh, she spars
Yeah.
in boxing?
in MMA, so like
Okay.
with kicks and stuff.
Wrestling? Oh, cool. Oh, so
Um,
kickboxing.
And jujitsu, so and some grappling.
Oh,
but
sick.
I like getting hit in the body. You know, that's fun. That's like
you
ha-ha.
like it.
Yeah, I hate getting hit in the face. I feel like I have
Yeah,
a
I
pretty
agree.
bony nose. So when someone hits me in the face, I'm like, my nose. You know.
That's a very valid fear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Have you guys done that? Have you done
Andrea did 2 boxing
Two?
fights.
Did you love it?
I hated watching her do it, but continue.
'Cause you're
Please
like, "Oh,
don't
my
box
sister."
anyone. Yeah, this is why I don't want to watch my sister get beat up. This is horrible. Like, why?
My dad watched my entire first fight turned around, so he didn't look.
You just heard it?
Yeah, it was really
Oh.
funny. Even though we've had like a world champion kickboxer in the family, and he would watch his fights, but of course not his own daughters. The first fight I did was chess boxing, and I really was thinking about it because recently this chess boxer I'm friends with, he just shared that there's like a big documentary being done, and I was like, if there was a good chess boxing fight, I would maybe consider it because it's not so much boxing, it's more 4 rounds of chess, 3 rounds of boxing. You don't box for that long. You can wear headgear. And then I got really addicted to it afterwards. I did Creator Clash and I fought Michelle Carey, who was like a stunt woman who's done like Olympic training for videos, and she had 4 years of experience. So I would never fight like that again. That was really scary. But I
What
did break
was
her
the
nose and I was
Whoa!
fine. So.
Whoa, that's crazy.
The nose thing, I hear you on. It is really scary.
That's crazy. You're like, yeah, I've done that to someone.
Yeah.
What is the chess boxing? It's like you play a game and then you box and then you.
You gotta do this. Yeah, it was awesome. Like because for me, it's my 2 things that I love the most. It's 2 minutes of chess. So my opponent was a woman grandmaster. So she was much better than me in the chess, and I was supposed to be the favorite in the boxing. So the chessboard comes out of the ceiling into the middle of the boxing ring. You play chess, then you pause the clock, and then you do 3 minutes of chess, and then you do 2 minutes of boxing. And you can win by either checkmate or by 3 strikes or KO.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nice because you have to really balance, like obviously the more you fight, the foggier your mental gets. So you have to balance those two. And I feel like there's less repercussions, of course, if you're more experienced at getting injured, because it's not so much just pounding each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's pretty cool.
And I just want to go quickly back to something you said. You mentioned how nowadays you have sort of less motivation to work out than you did before. What do you do on the days when you're lacking motivation?
It's everybody's favorite word. It's discipline. I go anyway. You know, sometimes the workout isn't good because I'm not like pumped to do it, but sometimes it's better than expected. Like sometimes it's good. And I'm like, wow, that was actually like pretty awesome. So I just go anyway and I do what I can do. And having my stuff written down also comes in handy because I'm like, okay, well, at a minimum, I just got to do this. I just got to do what I did last time. Ideally, I do a little bit more, but if I can get that, then like, you know, that was great.
And do you have any tips or tricks just getting in the gym or anything you do, or it's just because you're used to showing up no matter what?
Well, for me now, it's just because I'm used to showing up. I just show up. But if someone's like just starting and it's difficult for them to show up, the plan is good, the written stuff, bringing a friend or a family member if that's something that would motivate you. Like I know for some people, they'd rather work out alone. Like I would rather work out alone, so I wouldn't like that. But for example, I used to work out with my mom and she'd bring me because that would motivate her. So
That's
like
awesome.
stuff like that. Yeah. And once you like set your schedule, the first couple months are hard, like building that habit. But once you get it, you're just like, okay, non-negotiable, like non-negotiable.
Right. It gets easier over time. And one of the things I do is I convince myself the workout is going to be really easy. And I'm like, you
Oh,
know what?
gosh.
If I show up and I just walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes, at least I'm building the habit of showing up at the gym. And then my brain gives less resistance. It's like, fine, I could walk for 20 minutes. I can watch a show. And then when I get to the gym, I walk and I'm like, okay, I could do a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tricking yourself is a real thing.
Yeah.
Super quick question. So when you're sharing your split, you were saying you have quad focus days, glute focus days. Do you ever decide to just omit a muscle because you're like, well, I want to grow my booty, but for me personally, hamstring, quads, those guys are big enough. I wouldn't do those. Or do you purposely, like, let's say maybe you don't want a muscle group to get bigger, but you continue to make yourself do it because it's just important to work every muscle from like a well-rounded lifting point of view?
I usually will, like, at the end of the day, even if there's a muscle, I'm like, okay, I don't really like want to grow this anymore. I'll work it at least a little bit
Yeah.
because I like working out.
Okay, got it.
But yes, definitely. Like right now, that split that I was giving you, there's not a lot of upper body. Like I used to do a
Yeah.
lot more upper body, but I was like, okay, naturally I'm already like pretty X shaped, which means like my upper and my lower like are pretty even, which is cool. But I was like, you know what?
Me too. I'm X-shaped
Yeah.
too.
I was like, I feel like I'd want to grow my legs. So I kind of like paused the upper body, even though I love working upper body. I kind of want to just see if I can change my aesthetics a little bit. It's been tough, but
Yeah.
I've also known like competitors in bodybuilding. For example, I have this friend who's about to compete in like a month, and she actually stopped working her glutes for like
wow.
a couple of months because her glutes were so big. I was like, wow, I wish I had that problem.
Tough problem.
Yeah. But so that's not an uncommon thing to do.
I was wondering if it's like frowned upon because I've had trainers tell me, no, you have to do every muscle group because if you want to be able to squat a lot, you have to work your arms and your chest. And at some point I just disagreed. I was like, I can work that muscle without needing the rest of my body. And I still definitely like, push-ups I'll do. Like muscles that I even don't really feel are necessary for me to grow. I know it's good overall, but I was curious if people don't allow like omitting muscle groups when you're taking it really seriously.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have kind of like a belief that do what makes you happy. At the end of the day, if you don't want to work something, don't work it. Who cares what anybody else says? Do your thing. I can kind of see what maybe that trainer was talking about because like at a certain point you might develop some imbalances that can like hurt you or like potentially put you in danger to get injured during your workouts. But for the most part, I think it's pretty common to omit muscle groups if you don't want to do it, or if you're like a competitor and that's already too developed, like it's pretty common for them to just like chill out.
And is there anything you do to avoid getting injured, especially at the start when you don't really know what you're doing?
I warm up. I do mobility, which is why I kind of try to post that a lot in my content because I feel like that's something a lot of people don't do.
Like the
Same.
leg stretches and all
That was,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're an advocate for that because that's something I didn't really learn until recently. I'm like, oh, you have to do it before and after. You can't just pick once.
Yeah. Yeah. And specifically for like the dynamic stretching, even if someone wasn't working out, doing that would still be super helpful just for like their general health, like stay mobile, or like as they're getting older, like doing that, stay strong and independent, things like that.
And how much time do you do those exercises for? And are you trying to target the muscles that you're going to work out with?
Yeah, I usually do it like if I'm doing leg day, I'll do like knee, hip, ankle focused mobility. And vice versa. If I'm doing upper body, it's like shoulders, back, wrists, whatever. Usually it depends. The warm up, I walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes to get warm. And then the mobility is like 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how much I'm doing.
And actually, you have really good videos that
Thank
show
you.
how to do
Thank
stretches.
you.
So if anybody is curious, she has a lot of those as well.
Thanks.
And then what about after the stretches at the end of the workout? And why are those important as well? Because a lot of people forget to stretch after. They're like, I'm done with my workout.
Yeah.
I'm getting the heck out of here.
I will also confess I've been slacking on the post-workout stretches, but stretching after can be good, like depending what kind of stretching you're doing, or like if you're rolling out or something to kind of reduce soreness, reduce tension. If you want to work on flexibility after the workout is better because your body's warm. The tension you're putting your muscles in through static stretching is not really ideal to do before a workout, but after it's like you're in a great position to do that. So maybe you want to increase flexibility. Great time after.
Alex is really gathering all the tips.
Sorry, I mean, we have you here. I
No,
need
that's
to know
okay.
all the tips. Okay, before we go into life story and internet, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the health things you do outside of physical health. So if you have any advice in terms of nutrition and if there's any supplements or things like that that you find really effective.
Yeah, nutrition wise, I always have the macronutrients. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, no carbs, no fat, whatever. Like always the 3, very important. I also try to eat obviously high protein, but also like fiber rich foods. Butt cancer is on the rise. So
Butt cancer?
butt cancer. So we have to prevent that. And fiber helps.
And actually, I've seen some studies too where fiber intake is actually also related to how well you're feeling mentally, and it helps your gut as well.
Yeah, gut health.
Okay, so you track protein and fiber.
Mhm.
Getting enough protein is really hard.
It is
I
hard.
always hear that you need like 1 gram of protein for each pound you weigh, which, it doesn't matter how hard I try. I'm not going to get that 7 days a week or something like that. Do you have any tips on protein intake?
Unfortunately, my answer is also the one that you have like heard is like I would recommend approximately 1 gram per pound of body weight, especially if you're like working out or like weight training. If you're not doing that, you don't like really need that much. You can get like, I don't know what it is, like 0.5 to 0.8 or something. Also, it varies. Like that's just like a really easy number to say because it's relatively straightforward. But if someone is more overweight for their ideal, so their body fat percentage is really high, there's also a different formula that just takes into account lean body mass. So obviously the amount of protein would be a lot lower for that, and that can be more manageable.
Any sources of protein that help you hit that goal?
Whole foods are better. Also just like for your gut, for your skin, for your hormones, whatever, the vitamins and whatnot. But if you're like super struggling, that's when the supplements are better. Like if you have just a scoop of protein powder a week or every couple of days, like if you're living off that, you're going to feel really bad. And probably your body won't love that either. But if you just like need it every once in a while or like a protein bar, you're like, oh, I'm starving and I need some protein. And you just go to the gas station and you get a protein bar. Like that's good.
And one last question on this health track. What is the craziest thing you have done for health?
Her face.
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm just thinking something.
For example, if there's any new age tech that you did or
Stem cells. Who knows?
Oh. No, I haven't done anything like that. I wouldn't be against it though. You guys know David Lade, right? I think he
Yeah.
did the stem cells like for his shoulder or something.
Yep.
And I was like,
That's why we brought it up. We had
Okay.
him on, and he's the one who told me about it. I was
Okay,
like, that's
yeah.
interesting.
I was like, let me get my hands on some of those.
I know.
But
Yeah.
I haven't done that. I feel like the craziest thing I've done is just like, it's not even that crazy. It's more just like extremely blessed and grateful to have like turned it into a career at the moment. But thinking about it like that's pretty crazy, at least to me.
Before, I didn't want to go to your upbringing, but my gym question for you is: do you think most fitness influencers are honest about their physique?
What do you mean? Like if they're like, I'm eating this and I'm working out like this and they look like this, they're like,
More just like being very like transparent on social. Like it's a fine line, between okay, your angles and obviously like you're posing for photos in ways you might not look in real life because it's different. So it's more just like people being completely honest about like body types or what they're using to get there. For example, there's so many technologies that you can do to, and this is
Like
not really
steroids
fitness
or-
influencers. Steroids can be some of them. For like celebrities, it's known like, oh, people have surgeries and they're not honest about that. I don't think that's as common in fitness industry, but that was my question for you.
there's sometimes things like people will get a BBL and then like they don't say they got a BBL, and they'll just be like, okay, this is how I got my butt to look like this in 5 weeks. Like, this is my program. And it's just like, wait, you literally got a BBL. So it's just like maintenance.
How often do you see something like that happen in the fitness world?
I'm not really looking for it, so I don't see it all the time, but I do see it. I think also like my little niche in the fitness is less probably people not getting BBLs, you know, but I have seen that. I've seen people either like just like lie about their natty status, or people that I have been like,
What's
I
natty?
don't know.
Being natural, not
Yeah,
on
not using
steroids.
steroids.
Oh, yeah.
Which is whatever. I mean, there's like, people will say it's important to be honest about that, obviously, to not set false expectations for other people, which I agree. I feel like at the end of the day, your thought process, whatever, the control over your own body is like your issue, you know? So you can look at someone and be like, oh, that's very inspiring, blah, 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 whatever. But I don't know. You'll probably never actually look like them because you're you and they're them. So it's just like, you know.
BBL story is very funny. That's fair.
Okay, so you said the craziest thing you've done is you've turned your fitness into a career. Can you tell us how that happened?
I had my lean beef patty Instagram for maybe like a year and a half. Well, I had made it pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic happened. And then so I privated it because I was like, because I have like separate social media also that's like for my family or whatever. But I made this different account because I was like, I don't want them to see that. So I made a separate one. And then when the shutdown and whatnot happened, I privated it because I was like, okay, well, I'm not even going to post. So I don't want someone to potentially find this. When the gyms opened again, I started posting on the Instagram again. It was like, whatever. When I posted on TikTok for the first time, though, I remember exactly. It was a Friday at 12 in the morning, and the video that I made was easy stretches for beginners. But it was kind of a joke. I was like, this is a joke because the stretches were not easy. Like, some of them were easy, but like it progressively got harder to like really, really difficult stretches that are just like impossible.
Did people pick up on that
Some
joke?
of them did.
Or were they like shitting on you? Like, this is not easy.
It was a bit of both. Some people like understood. Some people were like, that's not easy. I was like, obviously. Like, I'm like contorted. But yeah, so that video did like pretty well overnight. And then I was like, perhaps if I just like keep making videos that people are asking for, you know, that could be cool. So I just kind of made videos that people asked for, and that's where it all started.
Were you on the internet before this? I heard you mention you were a Twitch streamer before you became an influencer, a fitness person.
I streamed on Twitch a little bit during the pandemic, mostly just like to my 3 friends. So it was like 3 viewers, me being one of them, to read the to read the chat, and then like my 2 friends. I remember the first time I had to ban somebody. Someone just came in and was like trolling, and I didn't know how to ban them. And then my friends were like, Patty, ban him. And I was like, I don't know how. And I was like, the loss of the viewer. I was like, maybe
your second viewer.
I was like, I need to keep them because I only got the 2.
Like 25% of your viewership.
Yeah, I know, literally. But yeah, I just like streamed from my Xbox.
So you're streaming just because you loved games and wanted to hang out, not because you were like, I wanna.
That's not why
become
I
a
started.
Gamer.
I started because there was someone that I had a crush on, and they were streaming, and I didn't even know what Twitch was, but like they were doing it, and I was like, maybe if I do that, they'll like me. Did not work. But
why didn't it work?
I just don't think they liked
didn't
me.
See your 2 viewers and they weren't impressed. She's grinding.
No, they came into the chat every once in a while, but just wasn't enough, I guess. But I found Cuphead, and I still play Cuphead, and I love Cuphead.
What is Cuphead?
Cuphead is a video game. It's a platformer. It almost looks like old Mickey Mouse sort of animation. I don't know. It's great. You guys should play it. You should play
Very
Cuphead.
Specific game. I like the more, if it doesn't involve shooting or FPS skill, I could do it.
Okay, yeah, it's not a first-person shooter. There is shooting, but it's just like a running gun. So it's like
cool.
I just like hold the button and run.
Okay, easy.
Mhm.
And now you have a massive following online. Did you ever want to be internet famous?
Not really, because I didn't really like comprehend what that meant. A lot of times I still don't, you know? People will say things online and I'll just be like, the internet's not real. You know, I'll just be like, it's whatever. Then when I meet people in real life though, then it's like really like, whoa, this is like tugging on the heartstrings when like someone comes up to me and they're like expressing that they're like grateful for some content that I put out, and it can feel, you know, obviously it feels very like, wow, I'm so grateful and like honored to be a part of this person's like life and that they like whatever I'm doing. Sometimes it just feels weird because I'm just myself and I've only ever lived as myself. So not that I have low self-esteem, but I'm just like a guy, you know, I'm just like, dude, like it's whatever. So I don't know. It feels weird sometimes.
I think it's a very common experience too. Like so many people have a massive scale and you don't really realize that. And it's not very often that you do like a in-person interaction or a big group thing. But yeah, I think very similar for us. Like when we did our first chess meetups and there's people who are like, oh, I learned chess because of you. And I was like, there's actually, like, I still don't really believe that when they say that to me now. I'm like, yeah, was it us or was it Gotham Chess? But I don't say that. But
did you guys always want to be creators?
No. Actually, when I was really young as a kid, I did, and I loved doing creative stuff. I would film and I'd make my sister act in them. I would dress her up in various
Botez
characters
Productions.
and script things
She would
for her.
film it too, but we lost all of them. She'd make me play every character in Friends, and she'd dress me and hold the script, and I would be reading it, staring at the camera, and then we'd show it to our parents.
Yeah, and so for me, I was always super interested in creative stuff, but I think my chess skills outshined other things. So my dad was like, you need to focus on this. And then in school, I ended up, because chess made me so competitive, I was so competitive about grades that I started doing well. So I sort of lost touch with my creative side and just was like, I'm going to lean into more just like hard work and logic. And then when I was in college, actually it started when I was in high school. I taught chess from when I was 12 to when I was 19 as a way to just make money on the side. And I started a Facebook page back when those were a thing. And like slowly over time, it grew to like 30,000 people. And I'd post chess puzzles, chess positions, things like that, photos of me playing chess. And in college, the CEO of chess.com had gone to my university. And this was before anyone was a chess creator. He was like, you've built a massive platform for what was then an incredibly niche game. You want to come start doing content for chess.com? And again, like I was a broke college student. So I was like, I'll do, you know, whatever it takes. And that's how I started. And then I started streaming for fun. And then I would start streaming once a week while I was working. And it was just this thing that kept growing that I never expected would happen. So I feel like there's a lot of people who sort of fell into it without these expectations.
Yeah.
Do you think it's easier to fall into it versus like people who are really actively trying to make it?
I don't know if I'd say it's easier, because that could just be like a lot of kind of like dumb luck sort of situation. I think it's like a mix of like there's a level of luck, but there is a lot of like intention that goes behind it for most people. Some people, you know, it's just really, it's you made a video and someone's like, this is the most beautiful person I've ever seen, and then it's just like your face, you know, it's whatever. But most of the time it's really like you got to think about it. Sometimes I think it might be difficult for those people that they're like, this is my goal to do this one thing, because it's not easy. So if it's not really clicking for them immediately, it can be like intense. If you're like focusing so hard on this one thing and you have like nothing else going on, like that can be frustrating and difficult.
Yeah, to add to that, I don't think it's easy at all. I think it's a massive mix of luck, grind, and even other elements. And specifically because I grew up in a time where the iPad kids were just starting. So we all grew up on YouTube, and there was, you know, at the time, like big fitness or beauty influencers or a couple bigger gamers. And this, before it was TikTok age, and every kid grew up kind of wanting to be a YouTuber. Like, it's not like you're going to pursue it, but like everyone thinks YouTube is really cool. I remember when I told my dad I wanted to post singing videos on YouTube because I wanted to make music, and he said, no, you're going to get bullied. And then I just played chess for the rest of my life. But now I post music on YouTube, so it went full circle. And he had a point. It would have been terrible. I remember actually filming, and this was just because the girls I would watch on YouTube I thought were cool, were doing this. And I was like 10. No, I was like 13, filming my makeup tutorials and putting them on private. And I had uploaded them to YouTube, and I had never published them because our parents said not to. But I just thought it was so fun to be a YouTuber. And it's not to the point where you are like, oh, I'm going to stop studying chess and stop trying to get good grades in school and decide to go to college because I'm going to pursue YouTube. But it was more like I think it's a fantasy that a lot of teenagers have these days. And that's why I actually think it's really difficult, because nowadays every high school, middle school girl has a great Instagram page and takes awesome photos, and everyone, so much of it is, appealing cool to your friends, but also like, this is the best job in the world. And because of that, there's so many people making great content. I had a lot of friends from high school. My two best friends who would always help me when we started streaming in 2020, they would take all my Insta photos and help style me. And they also were giving TikTok a try while also getting their degree and going to nursing school. And they kept up with it, and they had great personalities and great looks, but they don't go viral. And it's obviously a lot more than personality and looks. But I think because it's so normal and cool to be trendy in some way, whether it's for your friends or, it's very competitive.
Yeah, obviously there is a lot of luck involved, and we're all really lucky for the success we had. What is your day-to-day like as a full-time creator?
Recently, it's been a lot busier than it had been the previous few years, where I'm just like traveling a lot more, or like meeting new people, which is really awesome. Definitely getting out of my comfort zone, as previously I was very much like I'm just like to myself person, which is fine. My day-to-day is usually I wake up. I try not to wake up too late, just because, I don't know, try not to be super degenerate where you're waking up at like 2 p.m. And I don't know, that's just great. I have some streamer friends that do that. And I'm like, how are you functioning? That's just like not good for your circadian. But so I try to wake up maybe like 8, 9, depending.
Okay, that's impressive as your own boss that you wake up at 8. Yeah.
Thank you. I wake up, I take some vitamins. You mentioned vitamins earlier. I don't take a ton that are like specific to fitness. Sometimes I take creatine, especially in the pre-workout that I use. There's creatine in it, which is very helpful.
The gorilla one,
The
right?
gorilla mind. Gorilla mind. Yeah. And then I just take like, I don't know if this is bad, but I started taking prenatals. I'm not pregnant. I don't plan on getting pregnant, but I had this friend who was pregnant, and she had a baby, and she was like, I think it's like from the prenatals, like my hair's just growing and my nails. And I was like, maybe I should take some. So I don't know if like that's going to hurt me or something.
Don't you think it's the hormones from giving birth?
I think so,
maybe?
but I'm like,
I'd be curious,
it's those
though.
$25 vitamins. Like I'm going
Let us know how that works out for you.
We'll see. I mean, it's just like biotin, which I was taking anyway.
Biotin. I take biotin every day for
it's like
hair
biotin
and,
and iron. So I was like,
those are great.
Yeah, it's just like a hair, skin,
it
nails.
comes in prenatal. It's fine.
Yeah. No babies though. And then I take like omega-3s. Yeah. So anyway, I'll take my vitamins in the morning, coffee, breakfast. Usually I meal prep just in the morning before I start my day, because I live kind of far away from the gym that I work out at. So like I'll make lunch. I might also make dinner if I'm going to be like away for a long time. After I make my food, I go to the gym after breakfast. That's when I prefer to go to the gym. It's about 45 minutes away, so that's a good digestion period.
That's a lot of commute to do every single day. There and back, too. That's an hour and a half.
Yeah, when I had a 9 to 5, that's like how long I'd go to my job, too, though. So
that makes
Wait,
sense.
what was your 9 to 5?
Before fitness, I worked at a hearing aids company. So
we need you in my family.
We have a lot of hearing
We have a lot of
loss.
hearing damage.
Yeah.
And fun fact, you can't undo hearing damage as you get older, at least not yet. Hopefully there's innovations in the future. So if you're listening to loud music, it doesn't matter how old you are, put in some earplugs.
Ooh.
That's my
Your
PSA.
iPhone can actually track when the decibel. We watch a lot of Brian Johnson, and your iPhone can track when the decibels are too loud, and when it's making hearing damage and I started my yoga classes, I noticed like I was getting headaches because I had finally paid attention to this thing where for years I would just blast music in my ears. So I always have to go to the very back of the class. So it could be restaurants, it could be a workout class, but you should keep your eyes out. Continue.
Okay, good to know.
Sorry, we just have so much of it in the family. I feel very passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
Okay. Sorry. So
No.
you're working at hearing, but okay, so go back. So you drive to the gym and then what?
I drive to the gym, I work out. Kind of depends. Maybe someone asks me to hang out, might hang out. If I have like some content, because I also do my own editing. So like if I need to edit or something, then I'll go home and edit. Sometimes I visit my parents. That's
Do
about
they live
it.
close?
They do live close.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in California?
I did, yeah.
Oh, that must be really nice to be born and raised and now everything's in LA.
Yeah. Did you guys?
We grew up in Canada.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
And
Ooh,
we
we moved around a lot.
But coming back to this, it seems like you have really good work-life balance. Is this something you always were good at?
Thank you. I try. I think it's I'm very grateful for the work that I'm able to do because it's like something that I would do anyway, you know? So very fortunate for that. Very blessed. Before that though, with my 9-to-5s that I've had, I still always went to the gym. I was always very structured.
Yeah.
Like I've always been pretty structured. When I was going to the gym in high school, I went before school, so it's always been that way for me.
That 2-year-old gymnastics really.
It was literally shout out to
That's
my mom.
awesome.
Shout out to my mom for
That's
doing
really
that.
great. I love that you guys went to the, is your mom very health conscious? Said you went to the gym together.
She is health
That's really
conscious.
nice.
Yeah. She's really big into like, it's so funny because like I'll be eating some candy or something. She'll be like, it's not good for you. I'll just be like, man, leave me alone.
It's like me to my mom now all the time. Like, Mom, don't eat that. Read the ingredients. And she's like, you're driving me nuts. She's like, these days everyone's trying to sell you something and it's just your generation. I'm like, no, Mom, you have to do this and this.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite.
Yeah, and I've definitely gone a little bit cuckoo on the health grind lately because, like I said, I am sort of an intense person. It's all or nothing. I'm trying to be more in the middle.
Mhm.
But okay, so going back, you have work-life balance. Have you ever felt anything like burnout?
I think I've felt some burnout with like social media, just like trying to come up with ideas or something, or, you know, feeling a little discouraged because I feel like a lot of my stuff sometimes is like really scuffed. And I'm like, "Ah, well,
Very normal. You're not alone in
Yeah.
any of that.
yeah. So, I mean, that will affect me. I don't think before that, I didn't really feel any burnout when I had my job and went to the gym. The only thing I felt back then was even more of like a drive to be like, I gotta be a hustler, you know? So I was like, I gotta do drop shipping. Did not work out, but
Drop shipping, like selling things?
yeah, like that's,
What were you selling?
I don't think I actually sold anything, but like I was like, okay, I'm gonna make the Shopify, like whatever. That I feel like
Okay.
that's back when you would go on TikTok and you, like the ads you would see were
Ah.
like, you gotta buy this crystal lamp that like
Yeah.
shines,
Gotcha.
and it's like,
Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
drop shipping, yeah. But never actually did that, but was just always like, ooh, I have to do that, you know.
Were you say you were business driven or business savvy? Like, why did you want to do drop? Is it just because it was like
Just because
trending?
that's what I saw.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I was like, my boss is like kind of mean, so like I don't know if I want a boss. Like I don't have any other passions in my life, which I'm working on. That's kind of a bummer to feel.
I feel like you've got a. I was looking at your vlogs. I'm like, she knows how to motorcycle. Like that's really, first of all, really dangerous. And I feel
That's
like you've got to
true.
be comfortable with death, which is really, really scary.
That's
and I wanted to
true.
ask you about that. But you've got some very interesting hobbies. I don't think I know a girl that motorcycles. So, how did you get into that?
I got into that because it's like everything I do is like someone else did it, and I was like, "You're cool. I'm gonna steal your personality." Other than the
It's
gym.
inspiration
Yeah.
in some shape and form.
Other than the gym, that I went to just for me. But for that, it was like I knew somebody else that rode a motorcycle. I was like, ooh, if I do this, this person will like me. That also didn't work. It's just like,
We're gonna have a compilation of things
yeah,
Patty did.
literally like so many things. Let me be like an example of like, don't do it for somebody else. Do it for you.
But now you've got a sick hobby.
Yeah, and I love riding motorcycles. Also, my family members other than my mom ride motorcycles, so it was kind of just like in the family. But
And your family was okay when you said you wanted to pick it up? They're not like, oh, you're putting your life on the line, especially in California. Traffic and cars, people don't really know to drive here.
yeah, I mean, they weren't like, yes, do this, like they weren't excited by any means, but because my dad had been riding motorcycles his entire life, I was like, is this not a little bit hypocritical? Like he still rode motorcycles.
Yeah.
So,
Damn.
yeah, I was like, I'm gonna do this. So
I hate to be that person.
that's okay.
So I really wanted to get a motorcycle, and I think they're super cool. And I have done motorcycle lessons before. And
When
recently
did you take lessons?
in college,
Okay.
and recently I was like, like maybe it's time for me to get a bike. Vroom, vroom, baby. And then I started looking at the stats of like likelihood that you're going to die.
Pretty high.
And it's actually crazy high. And obviously not if you're doing it for a year, but if you look over like a 10 to 20 year period, the numbers were insane. I don't remember what they were. Do you think you're going to do it for the rest of your life? Is there anything you could do so that you take care of yourself?
Yeah, no, I believe that. Unfortunately, I've known like a couple people in my life since I've been riding motorcycles who have passed away
Wow.
from
Wow.
motorcycle accidents.
Same.
Yeah, so I mean, I've known people also who they didn't pass away, but they had life-altering,
Jesus
things. Like
Christ.
someone was paralyzed from the waist down. I had a friend who flew over and they cut their neck, and they definitely could have died, but they survived. So like pretty crazy things.
And she still rides. That's
You know.
insane.
What can I say? Not the best decisions.
Is
Give
it
it all the
just like,
information.
is it just like I don't know, like a faith and like life that whatever is meant to be will be? Is it just like you're just fearless, or is it like you don't think, or where do you think that comes from? Because any rational person who has friends, close friends, people who know who've died and been paralyzed, like I won't even box because I don't want to get a concussion because I see what that does to people, and I've seen like someone get dumber from it.
Mm-hmm.
So something that extreme, like where does that fear not come from?
Definitely, some lack of ration, but
Okay.
because like I see a lot of different styles of riding motorcycles, and I've known a lot of people ride differently than me. I would say not the smartest riders. They're very reckless. Granted, you guys are right. Like it's most of the time it's really not even the rider's fault. Usually it's a car that just like doesn't see
That's
them
the
and hits them.
scary part.
But a lot of times what I witness is like I'll see the motorcyclist and like they'll go past and I'll just think, I'm like, you're gonna die. Like you're being absolutely insane right now. So, I mean, I would consider myself like a pretty chill, safe rider. Something my dad says to me like before I go for a ride every time is like, remember, you're invisible.
Mhm.
Nobody sees you on the road. So it's just like being very cautious.
That's fair.
And some of it is just like, if I die, I die. I can only hope it happens quickly. And I
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
But it's
No
like,
joke.
I don't know.
I remember you said one of your biggest life fears was being on your deathbed, looking back and not being happy with the life you've lived.
Oh my gosh. What was that from the Bradley? Where did
Yeah,
that
that was my
Yeah.
favorite part too.
Oh, yeah.
Is that still true, or do you
Yeah.
have a new?
I'm sure you guys know this because you guys are like very well read and smart and just
Well, I
amazing.
pretend to read.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Me too. I'm looking at the book like
She's the reader. I just summarize.
But I think it's like Erickson's theory of development or something where there's like different like stages of development throughout your life, and the last one is like, I don't know, 65, 75 to death. And that one is where you look back and either find like peace and reason in the way that you've lived your life, or you look back like distraught and disappointed with just regrets. And that is my biggest fear. I really try to live my life with no regrets because what's the point? The past won't change anyway. But oh my gosh, if I live that long,
Please
no,
stop it.
no, but I mean anything could happen. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm gonna die in a motorcycle accident, but like anything could happen. My biggest fear would be making it like to the end and looking back and being like, I don't like the way that I live my life, So
Are you religious at all, or is there any other life philosophies you live by?
I mean, hopefully my mom's not watching this because I was raised like very, very religious. I wouldn't say I'm super religious now, I do love religion though. Like I love religious studies, and I find religion to be like very beneficial for like very many different reasons in people's lives. So I can appreciate that. Maybe just not my own journey at the moment, but that's okay. Other philosophies, I don't know. Be kind to people. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt up until they like really prove me wrong. Be gentle with yourself and others, and try not to live with regrets. What about you guys?
I would say I'm going through a spiritual phase. We also grew up Christian Orthodox, and I don't know if I necessarily believe in that version of God, but I do believe that there's something greater, and I'm still on my journey there. What about you, Andrea?
Yeah, we've been sharing our spiritual journey tidbits on the pod, so I'll try not to share things I already shared. But like we said, we were really religious growing up. Then I fell out of that, and I was like, I don't want nothing to do with this. And now, re-exploring that, my boyfriend he prays every night, and he goes to church every Sunday, and it's just simple things that he practices. It's like every day try to think how to be a better person, and sometimes that means like going back on things you haven't thought about and be like, oh, I should approach this a different way, or being more aware when you're being judgmental. So very much just trying to be like a better person every day and realizing any areas where I'm lacking if I can do better. So that would be the main one for now.
Are you happy?
Sometimes I'm not happy.
Would you say the unhappiness is more temporary, or
A lot of it's situational, I'd say, at least for the moment. Like I've definitely struggled with periods of my life where I'm just like clinically depressed. But most of like the stress and unhappiness that I'm experiencing like currently in my life, I know directly the source. You know, maybe I can't really escape the source right now, but at least I know like this is the source.
Anything you'd feel comfortable with sharing about the source?
It's mostly just like with interpersonal relationships with other people, just like different viewpoints on things, or like people just, I don't know, us not getting it and then it just like causing conflict. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to like live, and I want you to live, and I want us all to be happy. And you're over here being like, it's a conflict. So, but also, you know, finding value in these people in my life and being like, well, I don't really want to lose you from my life, but you're making it really difficult right now.
and these are friends?
Yeah, friends.
That's tough.
Yeah. Are you guys happy?
I am happier now than I was in the past. I have struggled with depression for a long period of my life. And I also struggle with work-life balance to the point where I just put so much emphasis on work that it detracts from other areas. And now I'm finally at a stage where I realize it's not worth it. Like I look back at my 20s and I was mostly miserable. I just turned 30 in September. And I was like, okay, I was able to advance a lot in my career and do all these things, and that's incredible. But moving forward, I need to make sure I'm enjoying my day-to-day more.
I think I also had similar situations where a lot of my unhappiness were like more temporary, but could get really, really extreme. And also for similar reasons like friendship, sometimes self-sabotage and other those things. But we've been taking this last 2 years very serious to work on ourselves. And that's definitely helped a lot. And I feel like for the first time, everything I'm working on are things that like I have clear visions and I know a lot what I want. Whereas before I was like, okay, I'm just doing this, but I don't really know where this is going. I wasn't really confident in myself. So that's definitely something that's helped a lot. And of course, gotten really healthy relationships and friendships, which took like multiple years. So I'm happy about that.
What helped you get out of your depressive period?
I mean, I've been fortunate enough to like be able to go to therapy and like seek actual professional help. So if that's something someone is like able to do while they're struggling, you know, I would encourage them to take advantage of that resource if they can.
What's something that would surprise people about therapy or a misconception they might have?
Well, I think people have like a misconception that it's like a sign of weakness. Like I've heard that from people being like, I don't need someone to like tell me that, whatever, like I can figure it out. And I was like, okay, yeah, but if you can do it, like you don't know, especially if you've never done it before, like maybe it'll really help you or change your mindset, or you'll really gain something from it. So you should like give it a try.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool how if you work with a therapist for a long time, they see the trends over a longer period of time, but they can identify things maybe you wouldn't have been able to.
Mm-hmm.
How long would you say it takes to start feeling impact from therapy?
I think it depends, like what the situation is and what like sort of therapeutic methods the providers using. Most of mine's been like CBT and DBT. One time I did the rapid eye
Hypnosis?
movement.
Or what is the
It's-
rapid?
I think it's
Cognitive behavioral therapy?
yeah. That's what I would usually do. It's like more speaking. Hopefully, I'm not explaining this. Someone's gonna be like a
It's
therapist
okay.
and be like, no, that's not.
You can explain
Okay.
how
Your
it
own
is for you.
I think
experience
it's more
without
like
knowing the definition.
speaking and just like recognizing your thought patterns. And if you have like a negative thought pattern in the moment, like actively combating it, or maybe you have like anxiety, something, you're able to identify your anxiety and like take steps to lower yourself from like that moment, things like that. The other thing that I tried was called EMDR or something. That might not be the right thing, but there's like dots on a screen and you track the dots with your eyes and you start thinking about a past event or like a trauma or something. And it's supposed to like help process it for your brain. Made my eyes really tired, but I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I'm curious, Alex. I don't know if you want to share, but you said you went to, this is a new therapist, but kind of first therapy session. How did that go? And you don't have to share if I can cut this out if you don't want to share.
It was really nice. The therapist seems awesome.
Oh.
She's just a 1 hour drive
Oh,
away.
gosh.
So we're gonna have to do it on video.
Was there anything you took away from the first session that you
The first session was actually just like an intro,
Okay,
get
got
to
it.
know you. But I've actually always been really open to therapy. I think the hard thing for me is finding a therapist I'm a fit with, because I've tried it before and sometimes it's not a great fit. So I think that's part of the work to do it. And what was hard for me is like it's gonna take a while to find somebody who's actually good. So then I start putting it off. And you know what? Chatgpt just really does a good job with my therapy, but also because I tell it a lot and I prompt it with like what kind of therapy I think I need to do and what I want to work with. So, at least that's a temporary band-aid. And what I love about it is that I could do it at any time. Because even if you have a therapist, like if something happens, you can't talk to them in that moment. It sort of has to be scheduled. So having some kind of help there, even, just through little Chatgpt is really helpful.
Do you talk to chat as much as my sister talks to chat?
Nobody talks
Or
to
can
chat
you
as much
talk
as I
to
talk.
chat on a day-to-day?
I don't talk to chat daily. I don't really talk to chat ever. I think like when it first came out, I was talking to it. And I did. Like there was a moment where I was like pretty down. And I was like, I think it's when I was talking to the Snapchat AI. I don't remember what its name is, but I don't know. I was like having a moment. I was talking to the Snapchat AI. I don't know if it's like programming has changed, but at least back then it was like seek professional help. I was like, bro, I'm seeking you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, chat goes probably a little deeper, but they also need to have a lot of context built up from questions throughout the days.
Would you ever consider using chat more for health stuff, like putting in your goals, what you eat, things like that?
Personally, I don't know if I would, just because like I'm pretty comfortable with like my structure, and I use a different app to just like track my meals, and I like the app that I use. But I can see it being a really beneficial tool for somebody else if they're able. Also, I don't really know how to use ChatGPT because like I don't really use it, so it would be like a more overwhelming. I think I would just maybe similar to you when you're talking about like finding a therapist or something, it can be discouraging to find a fit. That happens to me a lot, like trying new things. So I would definitely become discouraged.
And you said that you want to work more on having hobbies and things like that. Are there any hobbies outside of motorcycling that you really enjoy, or any ways you're trying to cultivate that?
I mean, I used to go for a lot of walks. That's nice. I like walking outside. But it's getting dark so early, so it's kind of hard to do that. I don't really have any like regular ones that I've been doing. And it's also, I feel like being a creator sometimes it's like difficult to keep that balance of like, okay, what should I keep to me as my hobby and like what's gonna be monetized? Because like that could be the video games. Like sometimes I play video games by myself, but like most of the time if I'm playing, I'm like, should I just stream this? You know? I don't love streaming all the time though, because sometimes my mood will go like this. And if it's like a down mood, I'll be like, I'm gonna like freak out. Like I don't want to be like live and down and someone makes a comment and then it makes it worse. And what are your guys' other hobbies?
I really relate to trying not to monetize hobbies because I sort of do that all the time. I really love learning things. I've been really into learning about AI lately. I like debating with Chatgpt about
That's her hobby.
cultural things and society and like looking deeper into things that I learn. I think one of the best feelings for me in the world is when I'm exploring an intellectual curiosity. Like I can feel high from it. Like, I've had conversations sometimes it's like 1 a.m. and my mind is blown and I'm like, oh, wow.
Oh, I got to get on that.
Give
That
us
new
an
drug.
example of something like this.
Oh, we were talking about different theories of time. Anyway, and I found that really interesting because there was this one theory called block time theory, which is like everything is connected and you're sort of simultaneously living through all these periods of time.
As in parallel universes or?
No, not parallel universes. Just in terms of how time works. Because we as humans perceive time as linear, right? Like you get your birth and then you only see the present. There's the past, there's the future. But if you really dig into time, it's fascinating. Like time moves at different speeds. If you're at a certain elevation, there's a lot of theories about how time works that isn't the same with how we perceive it. That was one. Or like I started reading a book called If We Build It, Everyone Will Die. And it's about why we should slow down the development of superintelligence because of the risks it put. And like I'll take photos of passages that I find interesting and then me and Chat will go and sort of debate it. So I really like using it as a thought and sparring partner. I've also gotten really into biohacking lately. So another thing I've been doing is like taking all of these tests on myself, working with doctors, but also uploading them to Chatgpt, seeing where I have any kind of deficiency and like getting those kinds of supplements. But before I get the supplements, I need to do deep research into like which one do you actually do? And then you need to do deep research into like what time of the day do you take it with food? Do you have to take it with something else? I know I've gone a little bit crazy, but for me, it's just very fascinating. We had Brian Johnson as our first guest on the podcast, and his whole philosophy is don't die. And he's talking about how we're on the brink of giving birth to super intelligence. So the only thing that you know for sure is that you want to take care more of your body so that like whatever happens later, you know you're alive for it. And he also talks about how dying is commoditized in society. Like all of these fast food companies, they put things that are meant to get you more addicted to it, and how just all these corporations are optimized for profit instead of for people being healthy and things like that. So I do like thinking about the intersection of my hobbies as well. Yeah, so that's kind of what I really enjoy.
That's pretty
Sorry,
cool.
that was a long monologue.
No, that was awesome. I love that. Yeah.
Andrea, your turn.
Yeah, we're different hemispheres of the brain. I spend every free hour on Ableton making music. I also, of course, learn a lot from my sister. So I do, like I've tried reading her AI book, and I also, I know it's a really important sector of the world right now, and I know it's really going to impact the future, and we should be thinking about like our influence and how to like somewhat talk about this, which is really what I've learned as one of the most pressing issues. So that is on my radar. But for me, music is my passion. And I feel like right now it's the easiest time in the world, where before to become a good music producer, it took 10 to 15 years. And now there's so many great tools like Mercurial Tones for any music people watching the pod. Best videos about learning production. I literally watch her videos all day long, and I make music with my friends. So I like creating art, and that's been my focus for this year's. I also DJ, so it's just been to take that to the next level. But yeah, different hemispheres of the brain.
That's wonderful.
Okay, wait, can I share a fun fact I learned today?
Yes, of course.
Did you know there's a species of animal that could actually live forever if it doesn't die because of natural reasons? Can you guess what type of species it is?
The species? I would guess either like a jellyfish or a lobster.
You got it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
jellyfish.
Okay.
I was
Wow,
gonna go
very
in
impressive.
way different direction.
What were you
I don't
gonna
even-
say?
I was gonna guess like an ant
An ant.
No, it's jellyfish. And I just find it fascinating because it proves in nature there's a way to stop cellular degradation. Anyway, that was a cool fact I learned today.
Would you want to live forever?
I don't. If I had to pick right now between dying instantly or being forced to live forever, I'd rather die instantly because I think being alive forever can be its own form of torture. But I do really like the idea of people living healthier, longer lives and trying to find some way to influence society to help people improve their health. Like when we look at the items that are banned in Europe for food versus what's allowed in the US, there's a huge difference. And I think part of that is because of trying to maximize profits a little bit too much in the US as compared to that. So that's something that I do care about. What about you?
If I could live forever?
Yeah.
Probably not. But I think it would depend on a lot of things. Cause yeah, I agree. Probably in like its own way, living forever could be a form of torture. I feel like there's a lot of books on that, like fantasy books. But it doesn't seem so bad. Like I feel like people will say like, oh, I wouldn't want to live forever because like everybody else is, you know, passing away. I don't know how I would feel about that because I mean, I already think about like, God forbid, my parents or something, which would probably happen in my lifetime. That's like the worst thing I can think of.
No, same. That's my biggest fear.
It's like the worst.
Yep,
So,
I agree.
What if you could live forever and other people also had that option and you can pick when you die?
Maybe, yeah. But I mean, I don't think everybody could live forever because then we just like become overpopulated.
Okay, you have. And again, I could be totally wrong, and I'm like very early in looking into these things. But one, like population decline is sort of a problem right now. Like we are shrinking, and at least in the developed world, there's only one country that's above the replacement rate, and that's Israel, and mostly because of the religious families. But I do think if at some point we get super intelligent AI and it doesn't kill us, this is going to be like a 5,000 IQ thing.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, please don't kill us. And it's like comparing an ant to ourselves. Like an ant would never be able to figure out things. So maybe the kinds of things that could be solved in the future that we can't even comprehend right now would find some way to like live more sustainably or like even become an
because I was thinking like I feel like we already have so many people that like we're killing the environment. But so I don't like personally, obviously I know the government feels differently because they're like our workforce. But I feel like it's like, you know, it doesn't need to be that many people. I don't know. Also, I'm not as well researched into the topic as you are, so I don't know.
No, I mean, I think it's always really interesting to hear other opinions. Like, again, for me, having somebody who has a different opinion to me is so much fun. And when I don't have that, I have to do it with an AI, right? So that's interesting to hear. But what if there was a way that people could live that was beneficial to the environment? Like, what if we could reach something like that? Would it change your mind?
Yeah, but I probably still wouldn't want like if in that context, it's like the environment's cool, we're all chilling, and everybody's living forever. I still don't think I'd want any like new people because I think we already have enough. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a hater.
I do wonder if like we were ever able to live forever, then what happens to people who want to have children? Because then if nobody dies and it's not decreasing, we become a multi-planet. Could be cool.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Hard for me to think though the quality of life living on Mars can compare maybe other planets, but I don't know. I feel like we're meant to die at that point. I'd rather live in the afterlife than live on Mars because there's so many things that I've read about. There's a couple interviews about physicists who are talking about, you know, potentials to human extinction. Because there was one, I'm so badly spoken about this. I don't even want to talk about it. There was like, I don't want to say like, they classified it as some sort of rock thing that was floating in space. But then there's more and more studies. I don't know if it's being debunked. But then it was like, okay, this is alien technology. Like there's a lot of signs that make it not. And they're like, okay, this is the alien technology and they're coming. They're like, okay, so what do we do to avoid extinction? Oh, well, we can look into living in another planet. Oh, we can look into building a technology so we can live in space. But I'm just like, that's not life at that point. Just let me be on the planet. I just want to be in the soil.
I feel like maybe you wouldn't want to go. I don't think I would want to go either.
So some people
But
love that.
some
Alex
people
would
go.
love to live on Mars with the aliens.
Actually, I wouldn't, because then I wouldn't want to lose my community, and
Yeah.
also being the first person to try something, there's always risks, and
It's gonna be such a different society. I mean, we honestly can't imagine it at all, so it's hard for me to hypothesize.
I guess with like all of these crazy things happening in tech, for me at least, I like to hope that maybe there's some kind of possibility of a utopia on Earth, and that makes me more optimistic for the future, even though I want to try to learn more about it and figure out if there are things we need to slow down.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think we'll ever reach utopia, because if it's not AI, it'll be climate change. Maybe we use AI to solve those issues, but I feel like every decade is something new that is going to happen. For example, when we lived in Oregon, there's going to be an earthquake. It's going to tear apart the West Coast. And
You say that about here too.
yeah, no,
Yeah, they
exactly. It's
do.
in California specifically. So it's like, okay, it's the earthquake. Then it's climate change. It's like, at the rate we're going, life is going to be unlivable at this point. Now it's AI. And maybe this might actually be the most threatening issue. And maybe there's a chance we use it to solve those. But I don't see any chance that we get utopia.
Okay, well, let's just have a few fun questions and then we'll wrap up.
That's usually how it goes in this podcast. What are your thoughts? What are your first impressions
On
so
Utopia?
far?
Oh,
No,
the
just the
podcast?
Botez pod.
Oh, the
gosh.
Botez Pod?
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay.
I feel like it's just like mildly intimidating because
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are very
Well,
intelligent and well
that's what I'm
spoken
here
and
for.
gorgeous
I make it
and
less.
like everything.
But
Yeah.
so are you in different ways, which is why we wanted to have you
Oh,
as
the
a
flowers.
guest.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you find my sister intimidating?
I
I
don't
like
know if I'd
asking
say-
everyone this question.
I don't know if I'd say like intimidating.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
What about
like-
autistic?
no, I wouldn't say that
Really?
either. Yeah, but like
You're
some
the
of the things
first.
you were saying, some of the things you were saying about like your research and like with AI and stuff. I was thinking, because I know you guys have met him. I was like, I'm sure you and David get along great because I feel like he's
yeah.
just like that. Like
Yeah.
we had a trip and we were both on it, and he's like talking about his stuff he's doing, and I was like, this sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah.
No, I've talked to him a lot about like biohacking. He also loves chess and he loves poker.
Yeah. Yes.
They love to
So-
game.
Yeah, definitely
That's really
friends for a
funny.
reason.
Yeah.
Okay, fun question. What is the craziest DM you've gotten?
Ooh, good question. Because I don't really read my DMs. For this reason, there was a DM I got quite a few years ago. I don't know if there's somewhere you guys would have heard me mention this, but this happened a few years ago, so I'm sure it happened like pre Bradley podcast also. It was a DM, and it was like a bunch of photos that were sent and like videos. And I mean, I've seen a lot of things, so it's like there's not like anything that I'm really like, oh my gosh, unsolicited, So I was like, I kind of want to see what these pictures are. So I opened the pictures, and they're not what I was expecting. They were just like voyeuristic pictures of people that obviously were not aware that they were getting their picture taken.
Like in public or in private?
It was like somebody's house.
Oh.
It was like someone outside of somebody's house. And it was like a lot of just like children. And then I
Jesus.
think that also the person that was sending the pictures and videos was also a child.
Oh.
And I don't know, something about the vibe, I was just kind of like, I think that's enough for the DMs forever.
really
That's-
creepy.
I was like, no more. So
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think you did share that story on Bradley's podcast, but it is interesting to hear again. What about your favorite fan interaction?
Oh, I'm actually very fortunate that I've had like a lot of good ones. I don't even know if I could just choose one.
Maybe one of your favorites.
I always love when somebody comes with their baby
Aww.
and somehow their baby knows me. Like like obviously their baby's not like fully aware, but like the baby
Wow.
recognizes me from YouTube.
That's
and I'm like,
crazy.
and I'm like, what the heck? This baby's watching me. And like sometimes they let me hold the baby. And I don't have like a ton of experience with children, but I'm like, this
You
is
held
like,
their baby?
yeah, I'm like
That's
so
awesome.
blessed. I've held a couple babies. I'm like,
Never
I feel
had
like
a
the
baby.
president.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Never got a baby. I'd probably just run away with it. But
With the baby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what happens.
You just go, hey baby,
Yeah.
you're a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your guys'
Crazy.
favorite?
That's really cool. It probably
Your
recognizes
weirdest
your
DM
voice.
and your favorite.
What's your weirdest?
All my weird DMs are like stories I don't want to share because they're all like bad. So I don't really have any funny ones. And all of them are not funny and just genuinely concerning. But let me think if there's any funny. I don't know how Instagram works, but I can't actually check DMs anymore, which is fine.
Yeah, mine has been weird because
Yeah.
like I used to go and just
You'd be
like
curious
sort
once
through
in a while.
things.
Like I want to see what people are
Yeah.
saying, like reacting to stories. But now I'm like, I don't know how this
Yeah.
thing's ordered. Like
It
it's
made
really
it
hard.
all weird.
So I genuinely can't really check because the order is so weird. Like I'm really happy when I post music stuff and I want to see what people are saying. And sometimes I read like personal messages that are really sweet about music. I guess they're kind of working. Yeah, there's nothing really.
Yeah, Instagram's always updating. And I'm like, nobody asked for that.
Yeah,
In
I
fact, we
know.
all said don't do
They
it.
keep adding features that just don't make sense. How about you, sister?
It was a DM from Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player in the world, saying we should do a stream sometime. I think he had more free time and he was getting into content. And as a chess player, he is like a god, the greatest chess player of all time. Everybody idolizes him. And I remember when I got that message, I was so excited, I started yelling. Kind of embarrassing to share, but honestly, any chess player would probably have that reaction.
Mhm.
And then we ended up doing a cool stream where it was me and my sister and him and Ludwig, and we did Hand and Brain. And it was a really, really fun stream.
So that was the best DM.
That was the one that I remember being the most excited about.
Oh, okay.
Made
a
me
good one.
really think, but I guess it would just be a music collab. But that was a good answer.
I mean, it's embarrassing to admit fangirling so hard, but it's true.
No, I mean
No.
it's the best.
I've done the exact same thing when it's an artist I really like and when they just respond nicely. I'll squeal a little.
Yeah, when somebody replies to a DM, I get so excited if it's somebody I really look up to or somebody we wanted to get on the podcast.
Yeah.
Is there anyone specifically you look up to?
Not really online. Like maybe like my parents.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
seems
for
like you
different
guys have a
reasons.
really good relationship.
Yeah.
I know you said fingers crossed, no babies, but it seems like you have a really wonderful family life. Do you want a
Mhm.
family of your own at some point?
I don't want to be pregnant.
Mhm.
So I don't want to give birth.
Same.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. And then there's like different like, could adopt or could like have a surrogate but there's like other things that I see as like not like bad things, but like potential complications with those different things.
Mhm.
And of course there's complications with being pregnant and giving birth, but I don't know. I think it's also for me personally, like I don't have a partner. I've certainly never met anyone where I was like, wow, I'd love to like give you a baby. So I don't know. Never been in that situation.
You've never been in love?
Maybe not baby love. I don't know.
Okay.
I think I've like loved people
Yeah.
and like really found something amazing, but so far at least nothing that's been like let me do what in my mind is like the most physically traumatizing thing any woman could ever do. But of course, I think like the most amazing thing, and every time I meet someone who is a mother, I'm like, you are like actually the most powerful force in the world. Like you're very amazing. Yeah. Anyway,
And what are you looking for in a partner?
funny, nice to me. Doesn't stress me out. Not super intense. I don't know.
That's really chill, actually.
Yeah, just like I feel like I'm a pretty chill guy, so just kind of looking for
Really
like a
call
chill
yourself
guy.
a chill guy, but chill dude. That's very
Just-
funny.
Yeah. Do you guys want your own families?
I do.
Mhm.
Also because we had, we have parents we really love, and everyone in my family who has kids is happier than they were before, and they talk about how much
Oh, that's
meaning it brings them.
amazing.
But also just I do feel a responsibility to bring new people into the world that
The
are good
biohacking.
people. No, that are good. No, like to bring like
He's
to
gonna
bring
raise
a-
him in a lab.
Well, don't get me started. Yeah, no, I think like being a parent is a really incredible way to give back to
Mm,
human
that's a very
race.
beautiful mindset.
Yeah, and being pregnant scares the shit out of me. And I've done a lot of research on it too, like what your partner eats influences if you get nauseous. There's a lot of things you could do leading up to it to have a better pregnancy, even workouts and like doing core workouts and all of that stuff. But that doesn't mean that it's not the hardest thing you could do with your body. But the problem with having kids in a different way is then you're not as chemically bonded to them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, there's even small things like if you have a surrogate, it's going to take parts of their mitochondria and give that to your kid. So And I also asked my best friend who had a baby, and she said she could never imagine another woman having that bond with her kids. So I do think there's like some sort of jealousy there too, which I'd
Yes.
like to pretend I'm better than that, but I'm sure I would feel as well. But the idea of doing it terrifies me, but not as terrified as I'd be of never having kids. Yeah. Andrea used to never want kids. And she would say this always. She'd be like, I hate children. I'm never
really
having
didn't
kids.
like them.
She really hated them. And now she
They
changed
were
her mind.
annoying. Well, I feel
What
like
made you change your mind?
part of it is getting older. It's like I still want a family at some point. I'm not there yet. Like there's some girls when they're younger, like in high school, they think babies are so cute and like they're drawn to them. I was always I'd be so repulsed. I'd be like, they're annoying and they're loud and they're needy. And like, yeah, I really didn't like kids. But now I understand, the family values, and I don't play chess as much against the younger kids, so they piss me off a little bit less. But sometimes when I am on the plane and like I see the family and they're like, their baby's like that, but then I see the parents and they feel so bad, so I can't really blame them. Like I know I'm like, oh, if I'm in your shoes, I would have just never gone vacation because I have a kid. But God, they're annoying sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah,
to
they
like
are.
other people's babies, but I
Yeah.
think it changes when it's your
Yeah,
own.
that's
And
what
I
I've
also
heard.
think now that you have a partner that you love so much, that changes your desire as well. Baby love. That's a cool
Yeah,
term.
baby love.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. Don't want to have. So we got a long life to live.
No,
but
for
yes,
sure.
I
But now
agree.
you're finally at the stage where you
Yeah,
want them one day.
I agree. I mean, of course, yeah, having your person definitely completes that. Probably.
Well, to wrap things up, is there anything you want to tell your audience?
I feel like said this earlier, but it was about like my kind of world views, I guess. Just like be more gentle to yourself. You're doing great. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, myself included, maybe you guys can relate. You just always kind of feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing this. I'm doing a bad job at what I'm doing. But I don't know. It's usually 95% of the time it's not that serious. Like you're doing a good job. Try to seek small moments of happiness where you can in your life. Don't forget to talk to the people that you love and bring value to your life. And treat your body well. Hydrate. Drink some water right now. That's what I say.
Yeah,
Eat
good
some
advice.
cottage cheese with some Cheerios and some honey.
I had cottage cheese.
I started doing when we started preparing for you, I watched your what you eat in a day, and I was so happy because I was like, this is really simple and practical, and it's not like all these extra random stuff that people always throw in there. It was the most human, normal looking diet. And sometimes it feels really silly to be mixing granola and honey with cottage cheese, but it was a really good hack. So I really appreciated those videos from you.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks,
you guys are awesome.
Patty.
Yeah.